Okay, I am going to just take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the draft coming up, the NFL draft, which is our course project. You have all of the guidelines here on our course website. If you go to assignments and you click into this NFL draft project folder, you'll see the full project guidelines here, as well as the pick order and team assignments. Let's just look at this real quick. All right, you can obviously read through this on your own time, but what I want to point out and make clear to you is, so this is an NFL draft. We are pretending that you are assigned, you're the general manager of a team. I'm the owner of your team, so you're going to write your final report as if you're writing it to the owner. We'll look at the team assignments in just a second. Hopefully you've done that already. So on November 8th, as you see here, it says determination of draft order based on NFL standings. So just like the real NFL draft, the worst team in the regular season gets the first pick, right? To help them become more competitive. So what I did was, after the games that particular weekend, a few weeks ago, I just Googled mock draft order if season ended, and found a list of, if the season ended on that day, what would be the draft order, and that's what we've adopted as our draft order for the course. This is only a one-round draft, so it's the first round. Any teams that didn't have picks, maybe because they traded it in the past to a different team, we just pretend that trade didn't happen. So every team or every student gets an assigned team, and that team must make a pick of a college player during the draft. Also note that all collegiate players are eligible. You see that content right there, all college players. So those of you that are NFL fans know this is also a little bit of a deviation from the truth, in that in reality only juniors can declare for the draft, or obviously seniors. But in our draft, you can pick any college player that you want. Hopefully that will simplify it for you a little bit in your analysis as you're looking at college football statistics for players. You don't have to worry about whether a player is eligible, because all players in our draft are eligible to be picked. You can see, and as I posted online, we will have our draft December 8th. I've scheduled it for 7 to 8 p.m. that day. That's a Thursday. And I will send out a WebEx link that will allow you to click into it and then join. We can all join each other, kind of like on a video conference call. You do not have to have yourself on video, but you do at least have to have audio. I will share my screen with you at that time, and I will have an Excel spreadsheet up that will actually similar to this one that has our pick order here. Let's look at that. Let me just zoom in here. Okay, this is my in-class section. So here in gray is our online section, section 2. Here's our team assignments. You can see what team you've been assigned to if you haven't seen that already. And here's our pick order. So in our course, we don't have 32 students, so not every team, not every pick is assigned to a particular person. So you might be, let's say you are Susan here. Susan's assigned to the Titans. She's the 11th pick, but in actuality she's the 6th pick, right? Because we're going to skip teams that are not assigned to anybody. You'll have 90 seconds once your pick is up to kind of look at who's already been picked. And again, I'll have an Excel spreadsheet like this, only it'll have a blank column for players selected, and as players are selected, I will type them in, so you'll be able to see that because you'll be on the WebEx call with me, and you will make your pick, and that's all that you have to do that day. So it's most likely going to last less than an hour. And then if we go back to the project guidelines, you'll see that 5 days later, you have to turn in your final report, which is a rationale and analysis due via Blackboard, rationale that is for the player that you picked. Now, most of your work needs to be done actually before that live draft on December 8th, right? So you should already be analyzing what your team's needs are and how that might relate to the college players that are available in the draft, and that's what I'm going to get into further in just a minute. So that's how our draft will operate on December 8th. All right, so how do you determine what your team needs are? Okay, some of you are already thinking about that question. I just met with one of you earlier today and went over a few of these things that I'm now going to share on the video. This is very relevant to what we've been reading in the Moneyball book, right? So I'm going to use Excel to make a real quick, actually, let me close out of this. Don't save. I'm just going to open a brand new Excel worksheet here. And I'm going to pretend I am you and starting from scratch. However, I'm going to do this for baseball. Your job obviously is to do it for football. All right, so I've got my worksheet here. First thing I need is some statistics, right? What do the Oakland A's do at the very start of Moneyball? They're thinking about, well, how do teams win games? That's what their goal is to win games, right? Well, you either have to score runs or you have to stop the other team from scoring runs, right? And so what they're really trying to get at is what are the statistics, the player performance statistics, that are most related to scoring runs, because that's what the A's need to do to win, right? Or on the defensive side, most related to stopping the other team from scoring runs. So thinking about football, what statistics are most related to scoring points on the offensive side, and on the defensive side, what statistics are most related to stopping the other team from scoring points? Okay, so let's look here. I want to start with some team statistics. The first one I'm going to need is MLB team runs scored, right? Okay, I've got a few different options here. Let's choose this one here because I know it's going to come out in a format we can use. So here I've got Major League Baseball team runs per game on this website, okay? All right, that's great. I am going to copy this all and just select it and do a copy. I'm going to go to my Excel spreadsheet. Now, if I do a paste like this, I kind of get it, right? I just have to clean it up a little, which would be fine. It sort of pastes in. If I do it this way, looks a little bit better to me. Let's do it that way. I'm going to delete these extra rows here. There we go. I don't need these columns, and I don't need this column either. So I've got the team, and I've got runs. This is runs per game, but we'll just label it runs for now. All right. Now, this is our offensive spreadsheet here. Okay. Now, I want to know what scores runs, right? What do you think scores runs? Hits, maybe? Well, that's what the league was emphasizing before Moneyball, was batting average. Let's just do hits. We have it right here. Here's hits. Now, here's an important point. So, in my spreadsheet, I need to match up. I need to make sure my rows match up, and each row is consistently, the stats go with the team that row represents, right? Right now, this order that I see is sorted by hits per game, right? I need to sort it by something that's the same as my spreadsheet is, which right now is runs. I'm going to change the sorting in my spreadsheet, sort, to sorting by team in alphabetical order. There we go. The reason I'm going to do that is because here I can click on this and it will sort it in alphabetical order by team. And I can copy this. Control-C. Well, I'll do it so you can see it here. Copy. Let's go back to my spreadsheet. Let's see, what do I get here? There we go. Looks like that is matching. I need to make sure the teams match up here. Dodgers, Dodgers, Miami, Miami, Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay. Good, good. All right, and before I forget, I want to put what this, I want to label this hits. Okay, I don't need these columns. Delete. Don't need these columns. Delete. Okay, so now I've got each team, I've got how many runs did they score. That's what I really care about, is scoring runs. And I've got hits. What else do you think leads to scoring runs? Well, the A's really like on-base percentage. There's probably a reason for that. Let's look at on-base percentage. Sort by team. Going to, again, copy. Nope, see that now it's not coming out right. Now it's coming out on a line. And that's what happens when you copy and paste from the internet, right? But I can use this paste special. Notice this. I'm going to use paste special here. I'm going to choose Unicode text. Ah, there we go. I get what I want, right? This is on base percentage. There we go. It's sorted. I got to make sure my teams match up, and they do. Delete these now that I know they match up. Okay. Now, what else do I want to look at here? Let's look at something like yeah, we'll do strikeouts. We did strikeouts before. Let's do strikeouts again. Sort it. Again, do the same thing. Copy. Over here. Let's see if it works. Yep. There we go. Perfect. Get rid of this. Delete. This is strikeouts. Oh, here, I'll write it out so we don't forget. Strikeouts. Don't need these columns. All right, and we could add other stuff too. We could add batting average here. We can add whatever we want. Walks, right? Anything that we think might be important to scoring runs. Okay, but I'm going to stop it at this point for time's sake. Now, what I want to run here is a correlation analysis. I already posted a YouTube video a couple weeks ago about running correlation analysis. I posted that to your project webpage, so take a look at that. I'm going to use this data analysis. Now, if you've never used data analysis in Excel, this isn't going to show up on your version of Excel. One of the videos I posted shows you how to do this, but I'll also quickly show you how to get it to show up. Click on File, Options, Add-ins. Data analysis is an add-in. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't take much time. I got to click on Add-ins. Down here, see Excel Add-ins. Got to click Go. I already have these checked. If it doesn't show up for you yet up here, they will not be checked, so go ahead and check them. You can check them all if you want, or you can just check Analysis Toolpack if that's all you will need here. Click OK, and then next time you click on this Data tab, Data Analysis should show up here. If you have an older version of Excel, after you do that, you might have to close out of Excel. Make sure you save whatever you have, close out of Excel, open it back up, open your file back up, and this data analysis should show up. So I click on that, data analysis, and I've got all these choices, right? We're going to use correlation. Click on OK. It's going to ask me input range. What do I want to correlate? I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to select all of these stats here. click on this again. I selected the labels, which were in the first row, so I'm going to click on that. And then it's going to tell me where do I want to put this? Output. Well, I don't want to put it in a new worksheet. I want to put it right here where we can see it, right beside our stats themselves. And click OK. Here's what I get. Let me make this a little bit bigger for us. All right. So I've got what's called a correlation matrix here. I used 4 variables. You see it matches my labels up here. That's where these labels come from. Down the diagonal I have 1s, right? All correlations go 1, 0, -1, right? All correlations are somewhere in between here. 1, perfectly, positively correlated. 0, not at all correlated. Perfect, inverse, or negative correlation. A negative correlation is an inverse correlation. Okay. I'm not going to get probably any -1s. The only ones I'm going to see are in the diagonal. That's because runs is perfectly correlated with runs, right? Every time that I get a run, I have gotten a run, right? I know that is obvious, right? They're the same thing. They're perfectly correlated because they're the same. Notice strikeouts is negative. I get these negative correlations. Well, that makes sense. We probably could have guessed that, right? That it was going to be negative correlation. I hope you could have guessed that. Because the more strikeouts I get, the less hits I get. Remember, we're looking at team statistics here. These are teams. The more strikeouts I get, the less I get on base, right? But we see that the correlation between strikeouts and on base percentage is not as high as the correlation between strikeouts and hits, okay? A strong negative correlation is anything getting close to -1 or even -1/2 is a pretty strong negative correlation. We say a strong positive correlation is anything approaching 1. 0 is a very weak correlation, or no correlation would be 0, but any number close to 0 is a very weak correlation. Strikeouts and runs is a very weak correlation, a negative correlation, but very weak. See how close that is to 1. What's that tell me? Strikeouts are bad if our goal is to score runs, but they're not terrible. They're not that bad. If our goal is to get hits, strikeouts are really bad, right? -0.4. Let's look at hits and on-base percentage, because this is relevant to what the A's were finding, right? So the A's really want to score runs. Do hits score runs? You know, are they really related to scoring runs? Well, that's a pretty high correlation. 0.67 is a pretty good correlation. So yes, hits lead to runs. No surprise, right? The more hits a team has, the more likely they are to have higher runs. That's a positive correlation, right? But look, on-base percentage is even more correlated to runs. Okay, well, why would that be? Well, that's because in order to get a run, I have to get on base, right? Hits is one way I can get on base, but there's other ways I can get on base, like getting walked, getting hit by a pitch, right? Maybe through an error, I can get on base, right? And once I'm on base, it doesn't matter whether I got there because of a walk or whether it was a hit, the run's going to score the same, right? This is what the A's were emphasizing. Look, on-base percentage is what's really important if we're trying to score runs. Now, that shows you how to run a correlation analysis, right? Now, once you do this for football, you might look at points on offense, or on defense, you might look at points allowed. And that would sort of be like your runs. or what we're using for runs. And then you might look at, well, how does sacks relate to points allowed on defense, right? How do rushing yards allowed relate to points allowed, right? And it's going to give us different correlations. How about interceptions on defense? If I get interceptions, does that influence points allowed? Well, when we're thinking about defense, we want to reduce points allowed, right? And the more interceptions we get, higher interceptions, our points allowed is probably going to go down. That's going to be a negative correlation, right? But that's going to be a negative correlation that we like. We want to see that if we're talking about defense, right? On the offensive side of the ball, it's also going to be a negative correlation. If my quarterback throws interceptions, then my points scored is probably going to go down, right? Interceptions are going to go up, my points scored are going to go down. But if we're analyzing offense, that's a bad thing, right? So you got to keep that frame of reference there, right? Okay, so this is going to help me decide, is passing important in the NFL? Is rushing important in the NFL? Is sacks important? Is tackles for loss important? By running these correlations, I'll get some idea of what is important for winning games in the NFL. Once I determine that, I can look at, well, where does my team stand in rushing yards, right? So for instance, let's go back to baseball for a minute. Okay. So strikeouts per game, right? That's what we're looking at here. Let's go back to the ranking here. So the Angels strike out the least amount. Let's say we were doing this for baseball and you had the Brewers, okay? You might look at this stat and you might say, wow, we strike out more than any other team in Major League Baseball. This seems like a huge problem. I need to do something. I need to get a hitter that doesn't strike out, right? Well, here's the problem with that. Are strikeouts bad? Well, our goal is to score runs, right? Yeah, strikeouts are bad. They're negatively related to scoring runs. But it's a very, very weak correlation. So yes, the Brewers they strike out a lot. But is that important? A little bit, but it's not nearly as important as, say, where they rank in on-base percentage, right? Let's find the 12th in on-base percentage. All right, well, that's not quite as bad, right? In on-base percentage, and on-base percentage is a lot more important to scoring runs than strikeouts is, right? So again, move over to football. Maybe I have the worst rushing defense in the NFL. That's not ideal, but is rushing yards allowed? Is that highly correlated to points allowed? I don't know. That's what we can look at in terms of analysis, right? So that's how you start with team stats, look at what's an important team stat, just like the A's did. Once you decide what's important in the game of football in the NFL, then you can look at, well, how does my team rate on these factors that are important, right? If my team is poor in a certain area and we know that that area is important to scoring points or not allowing points, then I need to start thinking about what can I do in the labor market, in the draft, to help improve my team's performance in that certain area. Let's say sacks are found on defense. Sacks are found to be really important to reducing points allowed. But my team is not very good at sacking the opposing quarterback. Then I need to think about, well, maybe I want to start with looking at college player statistics and who has the most sacks in football. College football sack leaders. Here we go. All right. Total sack leaders. Here we go. Florida State's DeMarcus Walker, defensive end, right? We get a whole list here of different players. So that's how I would get started. I wouldn't base my sole analysis on that one single statistic, but it gives you a place to get started in thinking about what might be important, what your team needs, and then what's available in the labor market. Hopefully this video was helpful, and if you are starting to panic, you are panicked a little bit less. It should be a fun project, but it should also be a project where you learn about doing some analysis, using some critical thinking, and making wise selections in a labor market.